items. So you can make special goggles that give you bonuses for scavenging and harvesting. You can make armor, weapons, cars, food that gives you great buffs. Some of it gives you radiation resistance. Some will just give you hit points back over an hour. So, unlike the food in a game like Warcraft where you get down in hit points, you sit down for a while, eat your food, then you get back up and run on after you've healed up some. With ours, the buffs usually last for about an hour, and you can just run around, keep killing things, and it'll automatically keep healing you up. Or it'll boost your stamina, or it'll boost your gamma to keep you...
You have less downtime.
A lot less. With the crafting, it's the same way. We have a time-based crafting system, and everything you do that you make takes time to make it. But we don't make you sit in a crafting facility if you don't want to. You can, and you can log off, and the time will still tick down. But you can also stay in the game, run around, turn off your queue on the UI, and just keep playing the game as you normally would, advancing your character, and every once in a while check the queue and go, okay, done crafting.
Right. I had an experience with one of the games. I think it was one of the MMOs. Was it Star Wars? Had an MMO.
Star Wars Galaxies?
And I remember I was in one of the towns, and I saw somebody behind a counter, and I walked up to him. And the funny thing was, he was a real player character, who was trying to play as a crafter. Now, unfortunately, the way the game was set up, he got beat up terribly because if you were a crafter, you couldn't fight.
Yeah.
And you had to fight if you picked a side.
Right.
So he got beat up all the time, and it was kind of interesting to watch. But I really liked what his idea was. He's standing behind the counter, and he was selling food and water. And he had a production facility set up where he was making the items, then bringing them back and standing behind the counter and selling them.
Right.
Later on, he actually had a restaurant, and one of his dreams was to have a restaurant that he had people come into and go to the restaurant. Eventually what happened was, because of the way the game design was, they beat him up so much he just quit.
Yeah.
But while he was there, it was kind of like a bright light, somebody actually trying to do something unique and creative. And he succeeded for a while. Unfortunately, he got discouraged and quit.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there'd be any opportunity for someone to do something like that in your game.
Oh, obviously. Yeah, sure, certainly. I don't see why there wouldn't be a possibility for that. Because it's been the apocalypse, there are lots of different towns scattered around with lots of open buildings. We don't have people in every building. And we're going to have, the ability, players could walk into a building and say, I'm claiming this place for a while, and hang out there if they want to sell stuff. Each town has some kind of crafting facility in it. So you could have the player who wants to make all these cool items, armor, food. You're going out into the wasteland, you're going to want to take care of yourself. You could stand around outside a shop.
Yeah, he was making food and water.
Yeah, you could stand right outside, make ammo, whatever, you get rich.
He walked into one of the bars and stood behind the bar.
Yeah.
And stole the stuff.
That's possible with our game. We don't block those kinds of things off.
It was I don't know, it's one of the coolest things I've seen in an MMO in a long time.
Yeah. A lot of that, it's a coupling of the mechanic that the game provides and the initiative the player takes to do that kind of thing. If you get that combination of a player with our system, sure, they've got that possibility.
That's really great.
Yeah.
What else can you tell me about it?
What else do you want to know? We've got PvP conflict towns.
Tell me about that.
There's 6 different factions in the game. The Travelers, Lightbearers, Techs, Vistas, Chota, who are the Children of the Apocalypse, and the Travelers.
Children of the Apocalypse.
Right. They're the savages.
Do they worship the radiation bomb?
Close enough.
Okay.
I wouldn't say they worship the bomb, but they don't mind what came after it. They don't mind what happened after the Shiva plague hit. They think that where society is at now, this whole bunch of rubble, is where we ought to be. You can't really dominate anybody, be a dictator, if your stick isn't any sharper than anybody else's. If you can't make the guns, if you can't make the tanks and the bombs and the missiles and the biological warfare stuff, everybody's better off, right? That's the way they see it. Now, my guys are the Travelers, and they're more into, if you can make a buck off of it, or a chip. Our currency is the poker chip, based off of a bunch of things hauled back from Vegas after the apocalypse. If you can make money off of it, it's okay to do it. Lightbearers are much more altruistic, and they're also focused on mutations, trying to help mutants after the apocalypse. The Techs are the opposite of the Chota, or actually the opposite of the Enforcers of the Chota. But the Techs and the Chota don't get along and the Vistas and the Techs don't get along because Vistas love the environment. They want to make things better. And
So you have to make a choice.
you have to make a choice. By the second sector of the game, you're picking a town to go to and picking a faction. Once you picked a faction, now you can play the game neutral, but you miss a lot. There are towns that you can still do neutral content in, but there are still 6 towns worth of content in that second, third sector that you're going to miss out on.
I remember one of the games I played, you could make friends out of just about everybody, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah. You can't make friends with everybody in our game. Ours is on the assumption you could probably make pretty good friends. You could be good friends with 1 or 2. You could be really good friends with 1, pretty good friends with 2. You might be okay with a balance of 3. You're not going to make them happy all the time, and eventually you might be to 2 because everybody's kind of interrelated. The way the wheel works,
Right.
One of the things I love about it is these shades of gray. That
So you can't avoid missions that wouldn't piss somebody else off.
Probably not. You're probably going to end up doing missions for the travelers. Travelers and techs are allies. They get along. But the travelers and the enforcers don't get along so well. So if I'm a tech and I go do missions for the travelers, I may end up making my friends, the enforcers, mad. You'll lose a little bit when you do some of these missions. Half as much with your allies as with your direct enemy, but you still lose some ground. You can make it up, of course, by going and doing some other missions. But again, if you're trying to find, you can work your way around the wheel eventually, and you can be friends with a couple at a given time, maybe 3 if you really work hard at it. But
So there's no really nasty group that if you kill a lot of them, everybody loves you.
Well, there's a townsfolk faction that you can earn where if you kill the generic bandits out in the world, the bad guys like the Devil's Own bandits and raiders who are threatening towns, you'll get faction points for that just help you with normal towns. It doesn't really help you with everybody else, but that's the neutral thing. If you're killing those guys, you win favor with the townsfolk. That could be beneficial down the road. But all that was leading up to the PvP conflict towns, which are areas that you can go into with your faction and your allies and try to take over. When you take it over, you can upgrade the guards. You get better merchants. The merchants carry different merchandise and recipes, new knowledges, weapons you might not get access to otherwise, a lot of crafting recipes, components you might not be able to get in the world ordinarily. So there are a lot of different advantages to taking a conflict town and holding it. It kind of based on a point system. You do missions for the different camps, and whoever has the most points for a certain amount of time, their faction takes over for a while. If you leave it alone, there are people who can kind of unbalance it, send it back to neutral, and then everybody fights over it again.
Have you done anything, because I noticed you said that it's really great the way people are working together as a community, and they don't seem to be doing the normal things. Like if I remember from World of Warcraft when I played that, one of the things that I'd run into is people would join your group, but only long enough to get what they wanted.
Right.
And they would jump in and grab whatever it is they wanted and make sure you didn't get it. And then they'd leave you, and they wouldn't help you do yours.